Alright, good luck.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, we'll get going tonight. This is Tuesday, February 21st, and our first item is a public hearing on McGinty.
Can we
Ten-
open the meeting?
What's that?
Don't we have to open the meeting,
I'm opening it.
the public hearing? Go ahead.
It's a nice color.
Exactly. So our
I
first
thought you were
item
going.
is a public hearing for McGinty, 10 Frog Rock Road, application for site development plan approval to legalize an accessory apartment and expand the footprint of the garage. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Alan Filch, ALP Engineering. I don't know whether or not we can put something up there, I guess maybe not, right? Then I will just,
Second,
that's fine.
unless you have a jar,
I do have one.
Harry may be able to help us with that,
I can if you like.
up to you.
No, I'm saying we can put a flash drive up there.
Okay, if you
Would you like to do that or?
Sure. Carrie,
Yes.
can you grab the flash drive for us? Thank you.
You'll see if there's a McGinty.
Okay.
We get Aggies, Sabrina.
I hope that's your G-rated thumb drive.
I don't think this one's very G-rated. I don't know if it's E-rated. Definitely G-rated.
Might not be by the time we're done.
Yeah, something like that.
File in particular that you're looking for, or?
Just there's I'll say civil site plans or site civil plans. If you wanna just put up like
Went up to our computer, yeah.
C
Yes.
101, I think it'd be good.
Interesting. We used to have a computer here, but it's apparently missing.
It used to be easier when I could just have Sabrina do it, like write it. 'Cause then I would say to her, please help me, I don't want.
We can use the,
Yeah, we could use this
you know,
too.
the board, we can use the board and get it closer to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we could
Good
do
evening,
both.
my
This
name
way
is
so we show.
Teo Sigüenza, I am the architect,
Okay.
representing a
Also with
client,
us is
McGinty,
Michael
Mr.
Sirigliano,
McGinty
who's the
here.
attorney.
and I'm going to be his assistant now. So,
Oh, you should put it up.
yes, I should put it up.
The next sheet, that'd be helpful.
Can you scroll to the next page?
Yes, please. That's perfect.
Thank
This way
you.
at least it's seen.
Yeah.
Okay. So here just to sort of introduce the project, the property is located on the east side of Frog Rock Road. It's 1.828 acres in size. And it's accessed through a driveway, which you can see in the lower portion of the property. Actually, I have one of these, which I can point. I don't know whether it shows up or not. No, it doesn't.
It
Use
needs
ours,
to
I
be a
think ours
blue
does.
one, and we, yeah,
It's okay.
Use one of ours.
Really?
It's supposed to be special.
But
Don't get hurt.
I'm trying to.
You don't give it back, Bob has to pay for it.
Exactly. Well, the computer is missing.
As you can see, the house actually there's a single family house here, a detached garage, which is actually connected with a breezeway between the house and the garage. There's also a pool in this location, a pool house, and a tennis court, all on this property. There are several walkways and things like that, patios and places like that as well. There's residential properties to the north, on the west side of Frog Rock Road, to the south, and Whippoorwill Club is to the east. So the project involves legalizing an existing accessory apartment, which is above the existing frame garage located here. It's also proposed to construct an addition, which is shaded in here, to the garage building. The construction will provide an additional parking space. There are 2 parking spaces in the garage. Will provide a 3rd parking space as well, and new living space, for the upper level, the 2nd story, if you will, of the garage. And I'll
To
just say-
expand the proposed
Yes,
apartment,
correct.
not a separate apartment.
No, it expands the existing apartment, sorry. I should be looking at you instead of looking this way. And I'll just say with regard to the wastewater from the house, just so you, just to make the point, we also obtained no objection stamp on the architectural plans which Teo Sigüenza had prepared. I'll just point that out. And the septic system includes some leaching fields, there's some seepage pits here. There's a separate leaching system actually for the pool house. And all of these were located by Cassis Construction. I'll call it the surgical approach, which is actually going in and physically videoing it and identifying it that way. And I'll just point out finally that we also analyzed building and lot coverage, and the coverage calculations worksheet show that building coverage is 4,928 square feet, which is less than the 5,514 square feet that'd be permitted. The total development coverage, we're actually removing some walkways from here. There's a walkway there which is gonna be removed, and that's like a patio and a walkway on the south side of the pool house, which is there, which is also gonna be removed. We also, just so you know, we're also planning on removing this patio, which was constructed mostly on the Whippoorwill Club site. We're actually gonna remove that too, plus the walkway that leads to it. I'm just pointing that out. But
Excuse me, you're gonna move it back onto the
no,
property?
we're just gonna physically remove it, restore
Remove
it.
it.
Remove it and restore it
Thank you.
around. That was our plan. But the total development coverage is presently 18,466 square feet, and the future would be 17,298 square feet, both of which, by the way, are more than the 12,350 square feet which would be permitted. As I say, development coverage would be reduced by, I guess that's 792 square feet through the removals of some of those pathways that are there. And that's essentially what we had presented to the for this application. I'll let Michael, if you want, to just fill in some of the rest of them.
Good evening, Michael Surignano. Our clients purchased the property in 2021, and they've made no site changes since during their ownership. All of this site coverage and impervious surface occurred during many years, perhaps 50 or more, through several prior owners. So it's existing conditions that were inherited by my clients. When we were in
Was
front
the
of,
apartment inherited?
yes, that
from
was
your
it.
client?
The apartment was there when we purchased. And then the other factor was when we were in front of the zoning board just a year ago, March of 2022, we wanted to address and did address the concerns, some privacy concerns of our neighbors to the south. And Teo eliminated some south-facing windows on the garage, raised the transom of the upper window, and we agreed to some trellis for the rear little porch area.
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt, but just could you, why were you before the zoning board?
We were there for variances.
For variances for the existing conditions that were discovered, or
Yeah,
variances for this
correct.
proposal?
Correct, area variances, yeah.
For the existing conditions that were there upon purchase,
For
or
the-
for these
No,
improvements?
for the development coverage conditions, then and as proposed.
For now.
Yes, correct.
Okay, I just wondered if there's a previous,
Right.
under another application.
No, no.
Thank you.
And our neighbors to the south appreciated our efforts and indicated that to the zoning board, that they're now satisfied with their privacy concerns having been addressed.
Okay,
Happy to answer any questions.
great. Sabrina, do you wanna run through your memo?
Sure, I'm happy to run through the memo. As Alan had indicated, the coverage is very much over. There seems to be some inconsistency between the coverage calculations worksheet submitted and what is detailed on the plans. There's some different calculations and it's, it would be helpful, Alan, if you could kind of take care of that and make them, look at the plans and maybe code the plans and specifically identify what is to be removed. The applicant is removing some of their impervious surface, but the 10,000, I had 10,570 3 square feet of variance, for development coverage, which is a lot. So anything that we can do to reduce that variance, I think would be helpful. The action itself under the State Environmental Quality Review Act is a type 2 action. For the planning board's information, the existing apartment is 454 square feet and is going to be expanded to 890 square feet, which is still compliant with the town code. The existing footprint of the garage is also being expanded to accommodate the parking requirements for the accessory apartment and the main house. And then a question, one of the things that is important to identify is where the neighboring houses sit in relation to the property line. I don't know if you have that information, you can detail kind of the edge of their houses on the plan. And I know, there's, the neighbor's attorney has his hand up online, and I am aware of the discussions in the agreement regarding the windows on the side, but it may be helpful to submit elevations or some indication that that is being addressed. That's all I have for this application, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I think one of the issues, just to clarify also, Alan, is when you were calculating the development coverage, did that include or did it not include the off-site structures or walls and the patio?
It did not include that, because it is off the property,
Right.
as I said. For example, that patio and the stairs, we're actually planning on removing it now
Mhm.
anyway, so, but it did not, I mean, it just included the site itself
Right,
because
okay.
it's related more to that.
Makes sense. Okay, good.
Well, I'm not sure I understand. The part of the patio, I would say 2% is on the property.
That was included in the
That was included.
calculation,
Thank
yes, it was, as was the walkway to that patio, but the portion that was off the property was not included.
Yes.
Okay. Dennis, you had some comments?
Not on this application, no, there were no wetlands, no trees, a lot of rock outcropping, so, didn't have much to say.
Okay, very good, sorry. Bob, you had some comments?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Chairman and planning board members. Number one on my list is basically I reviewed the Westchester County GIS, I reviewed the surveys, municipal tax parcel, the old map of 1947 on these things. Based on my review of these things, there were several areas of new imperviousness which was installed after the effect of the new drainage regulations that came in 2007. One being the driveway was changed from gravel to asphalt, which is a different curb number. No doubt more than 1,000 square feet is gonna require stormwater. There seems to be a new patio went along the pool, including flagstone walkways leading from the pool to the residence. Also, the construction of the new patio located on the east of the house. That was never shown on the original drawings and came in after effect of the stormwater regulations. So all that has to be taken into account. The areas have to be clearly defined, and stormwater improvements would have to bring this up to code based on chapter 108A. Let Jen chime in on this. Obviously, there was new construction in the patio and new walls on the Whippoorwill portion of the property, but I believe there's not much I can say about that. I'll defer to Jen on that. So to make a long story short, A, B, and C definitely has to be included with the new stormwater report up to code for chapter 108A. Number two, there seems to be two septic systems here. I know the county signed off on no objection. I'm not quite sure what it was. I can't see what they're signing off onto as an objection, but I would recommend that they show both systems for the pool house and the residence as approved by the county, just so we know they're both legit. Number three, I would demarcate and label the total limits of disturbance. I'm not quite sure. It's not shown on these plans what's gonna be disturbed and how much is gonna be disturbed. This is in East Hudson. If you more than 5,000, you can get the SWIP, which chapter 108A as well. And also too, I would recommend showing the location, size, and type of the existing water service lines for both the accessory apartment, and the 5-bedroom residence. And number 5, I would indicate the size, type, of existing water main located along Frog Rock Road as well. And that ends my comments for this application, Chairman.
Okay, very good, thank you. Jennifer, you want chime in on the encroachment and also more importantly, I think, in terms of our role in terms of the site plan for coverage? We had a discussion this morning, and I think you made a determination that that will be something the planning board would have to handle.
Sure, so with respect to the encroachments onto the Whippoorwill Club property, and encroachments onto another property, or it's a private matter between the two property owners. I think we heard from Mr. Serrano that the applicant is proposing to remove those encroachments from the Whippoorwill property, which is great. But anything on Whippoorwill property would not be included in the calculations for this particular project. And I think we heard from Alan that those calculations presented did not include the coverages from the Whippoorwill property.
Yep.
With respect to the development coverage, yes, the applicant will need a variance, an area variance from the zoning board of appeals. I think they have a pending application, as we heard. Although it is also, it's within the planning board's jurisdiction to approve the SWIP that's going to be required, as Mr. Sealy just outlined. So I would encourage the planning board to work with the applicant about discussing whether any further reductions can be made in development coverage in your role as the approval authority for the SWIP.
Okay, very good. Good. Sabrina, we can't see the screen. There's someone with a hand up, did you say?
There is, Chairman.
Yeah, okay, can we, Carrie, can you recognize the or identify the person so that person can speak?
Mike, in the interim, the driveway is now paved and it was gravel before?
Well, it was paved when we bought it.
Uh-huh.
It was
And
paved
now-
when we bought it.
And now what is it?
No, it is paved today, and it was that way when we purchased it. Apparently, according to the earlier
Line
testimony,
is open.
the aerial shots indicate that it was previously gravel before our ownership.
We have a comment from a member of the public?
Yes, good evening, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
This is Clifford Davis. I am counsel for Walter and Stacy Kershak. They reside at 8 Frog Rock Road. The neighbors to the south of 10 Frog Rock Road. Submitted an email on February 17th. I hope that no action is taken tonight and the hearing continues. I spoke to Sabrina Hall today and she indicated to me that that would probably happen. But our main concerns are privacy, and as Mr. Sirignano was stating, dealing with certain windows which are facing south, and which we thought we had an agreement. And if we do have an agreement, it should somehow be built into the site plan approval. So what I'm hoping is that Mr. Sirignano and his team could submit to the board what they think the plan is, and then my clients can review it, and then we would give the sign off at the next meeting. But as of right now, what Mr. Sirignano just says casually, it's not set forth anywhere. They haven't agreed to anything. They've only said that they plan on doing it, like it's cemented before this board. Further, I just want the confirmation as to whether this was actually a pre-existing apartment, as my understanding from my client is that there is no kitchen presently in the apartment. So is that an apartment that pre-exists in which they're trying to legalize?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think you've heard from us before, just comments from other board members, of course, will be taken, but Sabrina, I think we, as you referenced before, we customarily see the other parcels, the development on the other parcels, adjacent parcels, so we know exactly, to scale, how far or close they are. It seems to me that we normally see a floor plan and elevations on accessory apartment applications, so we should see that. And that should be submitted and so that we have that. Those are just my preliminary issues and comments. Board members, any thoughts?
I'm curious where we stand with sort of paved driveways versus ones that at least let some water through. Maybe Bob, somebody could help me there on that. Are we allowing that, and does that benefit the applicant if they were to switch back? Mr. Ciolo?
Well, when you have a gravel driveway, it allows obviously a little bit more infiltration of water, not as much as grass, but a lot more than asphalt, and the curb number reflects that too. So, really what you have to do is Alan preaches to the choir with Alan, he knows this inside and out. You'd have to see what the curb number is of the gravel, then you know what the curb number is of the asphalt, and do the difference and see what the runoff is, and come up with some mitigation measures to treat the water for its runoff rate and also for water quality and volume as well, and also with the patio. So yes, you do have more runoff when you go from gravel to asphalt, there's no doubt about it. Not as much as from grass to asphalt, but there is an increase in runoff nonetheless.
Yeah, I know that it doesn't change the development footage.
No, development coverage is anything man-made, certainly gravel is development, asphalt is development. But they did increase the areas of the actual driveway. When you look at the Google GIS maps, and just for the record, when you go to 2016, it was gravel, a little bit smaller driveway. When you go to 2018, that's when you see the improvements. So obviously, it was between 2016 and 2018 when they did improvements, which I guess, based on the owner, that's prior to them purchasing the house, I would imagine.
Well, so there's a potential area for maybe a trade, or at least making it back to the size that it was in 2016, and that might help. What we're looking for is additional things that get it back, so that we can feel comfortable. My sense is that it's going to be almost impossible to get it back to where it should have been, but it's a question of what else we can do to make the whole system, above ground, below ground, everything, that is more palatable to us.
Yeah, forgive me, we did have the elevations, I'm sorry.
Yes, you do have, and I would like to clarify this in a couple of points. Yes, and the elevations will show you not only the elevation but the floor plan. A few things I would like to start. My client reminded me, and I know that may have relevance or not, perhaps not, because I know that properties could be sold, but the present the plan for this accessory dwelling unit is for the mother-in-law, for the mother. So she will be living here. Mm-hmm. So she's more of the applicant actually. And yes, there was a kitchen in this unit, and we have documented, we have pictures. You are invited to come and see. And we have shown those photographs to the Board of Health, because the way that we obtained the no objection letter was by documenting what is there at the present, and there is a kitchen. And it's shown on the plans that you have there, because you do have the plans of the no objection letter. So that is regarding what was existing there. Mm-hmm. So it's a small apartment, we're going to slightly increase it, I understand that. The other question that was raised was regarding the window that we have actually, it has been documented extensively, because as a matter of fact, we went back to the ARB, to show them that we were going to eliminate the tall window that we had here. And actually they said, oh, why are you doing that? You're outside of the setback line, and why does that matter? I said, no. There's an agreement that we have with the owner, with the neighboring owner. They said, oh, okay, all right. So we also created this planting trellis on the side of the terrace to give them privacy. So this has been addressed, documented. It's in record with the town, because we went back to the ARB and obtained another approval. just to put that in
Okay.
context.
I think
Thank
that-
you.
that's a
Thank
good
you.
move, it gives
Yes.
both parties more privacy.
It gives them, exactly. And the apartment that we're proposing, which you have right there, is a one-bedroom unit as well. As it exists at the moment, but it's a little more comfortable, as you will see on the plan. Thank you.
I think the issue that we have is, to the greatest extent possible, there's a lot of activity on this 1.8 acres at this point. It's sort of like a little mini carnival, you know, pool, tennis, terraces and patios all over. And it's way over the normal coverage. So I guess the task for you to make, echoing Dick's comments, to make us more comfortable, and I think some of Bob's comments, is whatever we can do to pull those back, eliminate those, change them around and get this to a more comfortable level. Bob, is it possible that it would pull it even out of the requirements for a SWIP if they really pull back?
Quite honestly, I can't make that determination based on the information that's provided. Alan Pilcher would have to go through a thorough analysis with the graphical blow up and the tables, so I can clearly understand what's being removed, what's remaining, what was added, so I really can't make that determination on what was submitted at all.
Okay.
Yeah, and also to point out again, you know, these improvements haven't been done by our client.
No, we
You know, they
understand.
haven't been done in the past. And I understand what Mr. Cioli is referring to, that it was a gravel driveway, probably compacted, that is almost equivalent to asphalt, maybe a little less, as he's saying, not as grass, but it was heavily compacted, and, you know, there's not a lot of absorption that you'll get there.
Right.
So Alan will demonstrate, you know, what that value has become.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, the other thing is narrowing the driveway back to the size that it was. And that was I saw that somewhere that's being considered or done or
Well,
what?
actually, when I reviewed the aerials, and I went through them also, I think the driveway width has stayed fairly constant, I really do. What has happened is at the end of the driveway in front of the garage, it has been modified.
Right.
Not a lot of modification, but the location of the vegetated turnaround has been modified over time. And I think that was it. I think the principal change in the driveway is going from gravel to being, asphalt. I think that really is it. I don't think the driveway has changed that much. When you really look at the aerials, it doesn't look like the dimensions of it have changed significantly at all.
And the width of the driveway right now is within code?
I'd have to
normal,
sort of take a look at it.
practices?
Yeah. And
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty normal looking.
there's really no code for driveway widths.
But it-
Yeah.
Oh, let's not forget Alan, let's not forget the patio area too, so.
Well, there's two patio
Yeah, I
areas we're
know.
talking about. One was the patio adjacent to the pool, which did expand. The other is the patio in the rear of the building, which looks like it might have been expanded maybe 10 years ago or so. That looks like what had also been changed on it. The rest of it all looks like it was there when I sort of reviewed the GIS as well.
So, as you know, and I think I'm right about this, the purchasing a piece of property that has conditions on it which are outside of the allowable zoning, planning, town regulations, because you purchase a property in that condition, it doesn't automatically convey grandfather status. In other words, these conditions are still sort of beyond what we normally would see. So we could just, from my point of view, let's just take off the discussion, the fact that you found it this way. And let's talk about what it is and what we need to do, whether we decide we need to do something about it, and if so, up to you in the end, how, I think. And I'd like to focus on the whether and a target for that, right? How many square feet? What do we think we need to do in order to bring this into conformance with the zoning code? And to what extent coverage regulations, and to what extent might the board, the town, represented by this board, decide that maybe there is some extra for whatever reason, there might be some extra that we allow on the piece of property. I think that's what we ought to do. And we can talk about, well, we can do something about the driveway, we can take a patio out, those are all options. But to me, coming up with a number or a percentage is really where we ought to go, and then you guys come back with, well, this is what we can do. I think that's a discussion we ought to have. And in that vein, Jennifer, Sabrina, unless I'm mistaken, we have the authority to grant, what is it, 15% above the coverage, normal coverage maximums?
Yeah.
If we think there's justification for to do so.
Well, that's
is that
for
correct?
a subdivision, I think, a new
And
subdivision.
that's in your subdivision regulations, which is
It's-
not.
They're bumping up against the code restriction of development coverage, so it's separate and apart from previous approvals that you may have made with allowances.
Okay,
Yeah, that's only on conservation subdivisions, right?
okay, thank you.
Right.
Good to know. I should know that, but now I do. So thanks. So I understand the positive good of accessory units, affordable housing, accessory, those are all things that the town wants to do. I'm totally on board with that. I think that we are, as a board, on board with that. I also think that the coverage regulations we have are positive good as well. And so it's a matter, it's sort of, I think we're sort of put in a position of like, weighing one against the other. Do we give up this in order to get that? And I don't think we have to give up either. And I don't think we ought to give up either. I think that we ought to hold firm on both of those regulations and have you come back and say, well, okay, we're not gonna do the affordable, we already have a unit there, so we're not adding an affordable housing unit. I'm sorry, an accessory unit, we already have one. So it's a matter of improving that. Or not improving that and keeping the coverage you have. Or improving it and taking away from some of the coverage you have in order to get it back into what the code says. And that's where I am. I think we ought to get it back to 12,000 and figure out how to do it. You got a tennis court there, which is, I don't know how many square feet's a tennis court, is it 30 by 60? I don't know what it is.
It's noticeable.
It's usually about 6,000 to 7,000 square feet. It's typically
How much?
20 by 60.
6,000 to 7,000, you said.
Roughly 7,000. I have to take a look and see what the plan is, but it's like, there's a fair amount there.
I mean, the problem I'm having is that if we grant this, we're put in a position of, well, what do we do the next time somebody comes in? How do we deal with that? One of the objections to I think, one of the objections you often hear about accessory units is that it increases the density of a neighborhood. And that's one of the reasons people don't like it. I think that's a legitimate point of view. I don't think that it's necessarily legitimate enough to take away the ability for the town to do this, but it's a legitimate point of view. And in this particular case, it seems to me that we are increasing the development coverage, which is density, in terms of development on the property and in the neighborhood, in order to get an accessory dwelling. And we don't have to do that. I mean, we just don't.
And one thought that in this whole vein that you've created, and we're talking about is that, given that the tennis court is a little bit under 6,500 square feet, which takes you a huge way towards getting back into this. And one of the things that strikes me is that since Whippoorwill is right next door, you could probably get an access. I would think you should ask Whippoorwill, would they be willing to give you, have an access way there that people could walk from the private property onto the Whippoorwill property, because they have tennis courts there, right?
You need a membership though.
That's right, but the membership comes with other things too, so it's a question of what do we do here? It's not gonna be, 6,000 $457 per year. It's something much more modest than that, but there is a way to, keep the tennis, but not on your property. If you ask, and they would ask, you'd have to have a gate with a lock, so that people don't go back and forth just on flyer, but that's one way to gain a lot, of goodwill in far as we're concerned.
So the tennis court could be one big thing, but at this point, I don't think we're here to tell you, what you should let go of in terms of the development coverage in order to get this thing back into conformance. And I would say that even if this project doesn't go forward, even if this application goes away, you guys decide not to do this, you still have a problem. You're out of conformance here. And I don't know to what extent the town will decide that they, need to do something about this. But I don't know how you're gonna deal with that if the town decides to do something about this, but it seems to me that, now's the time to correct the situation.
Is your tennis court hard-true or is it paved?
Paved,
Paved,
pre-existing.
okay.
Well, look, we'll obviously have a conversation with the homeowners, the clients about
Yep.
searching for additional areas of impervious surface. They've already done and proposed eliminating more than the new construction involves. In terms of density, we're not proposing increased density. We already have the accessory apartment and we're just making it more comfortable for mother or mother-in-law. So, but we're not creating a new accessory apartment that was never on this site before. So I don't think we can be criticized for increasing density here. We're not.
Well, I'm sorry, so first of all, you're adding a bedroom, I think, or an extra room. Okay.
Extra room, it's still a
Extra room.
one-bedroom.
That's fine. So I'm using density in a different term, not necessarily in terms of population density or FAR density. I'm talking about the impacts of development.
Oh, okay.
Right? And that is also density on the landscape.
Okay.
So that's probably the wrong word, but I think you understand what I'm.
I do now.
And I think one of the other issues is of course, is that you have an apartment there, but it's not legal at this point. So one of the parts of this application
Well, that's why we're
is to
here.
legalize it. Well, no, we do it for two things. You're legalizing and expanding it, so it's really two parts, two steps. So we understand that. And again, I think you'll hear from us that we're very much in favor of working with folks with accessory apartments. But your coverage is, it's way over. So as Tom said, I will leave it to you to come back. First of all, we do need the basics to show us where the other properties are, and the other developments, the houses are, approximate to this application. And then come back to us and be as creative as you possibly can to try to get as close as possible to conformance. Help us so that we can help you.
And that's fine, but, I don't think that you're saying if the application was eliminated and my clients decide not to go, then the town will have to also track down not only this property, but other hundreds and thousands that may be over in coverage. So.
That's not our job, that's the town's
That's
job.
right, that's right.
And as a
But I understand, and
And by the way, this is not the first time this has happened to this board.
right.
You've
So-
come with applications and they're in a non-conforming. And so we deal with it then, and that's what we're trying to do now.
Right, but also to know that some of this coverage, it dates back to 70, 80 years ago, no? Before zoning was in effect. So that's very important to know. It's not like it has been done and it has all been done because they wanted to do breaking the law. There was no law. That's when some of the work was done.
There's a law now.
That is correct, but
That's the law that
there's
applies.
grandfathering. I'm just pointing
It's
out,
not
I
gonna-
understand what you're
We're
saying.
not gonna
We're not looking for an argument.
Yes,
Thank
yeah,
you.
right.
We-
We will provide the drainage that Mr. Scioli requested. We'll clarify the charts.
Yep.
The runoffs. We will do a decrease of coverage as much as we can, and we appreciate that.
If
Thank
there's
you.
dry land around, Alan can find it.
Thank you, yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Davis has his hand raised.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, Mr. Davis, you got a comment?
Mr. Chairman, again, I represent Walter and Stacy Kurzak. I'll be very brief. I just was hoping that the board could direct the applicant, because the architect, raises up, if you think about the ARB, there was nothing finalized at the ARB. There was talk of an agreement, but we would like to have the precise, I guess, designs of what they were going to do to protect my client's privacy regarding the windows and the elevation. So I would ask that if the architect could provide that to the planning board for the next meeting.
Well, they're gonna provide the elevations. Again, we'll look at those in the outside exterior, and that's one of the reasons why we asked for the location of the property, so we can assess the distance and proximity and elevations, et cetera, how the ground slopes. So that's why we really asked for it. It's not that we're particularly nosy about where your client's house is. So that's all part of it, so that'll be part of what we'll consider when we hear it.
I would just ask the applicant if they could give us the courtesy of showing what they think was the agreement and submit it to myself or to my client to review it.
I think what Teo was trying to explain is that he submitted the revised plans pursuant to the agreement to the architectural review board, and they approved the modifications. So there's a record there. I think that's all Teo was trying to point out. And Mr. Davis, we have no problems sending you, electronic copies of the revised plans.
Great, okay, super.
Well, first of all, we have no notice of that meeting at the ARB.
Well, that's a different issue, that's not for us.
Yeah.
We haven't got enough problems here, but on notice, et cetera. But that is.
All that I'm saying is that Mr. Sirignano and his team, if they could provide that information to us, so we're all on the same
I think he
page.
just said I think he just said yes.
Yeah, they agreed to
You already
it.
said yes.
Thank you.
So what we'll
Thank
do
you.
is, we'll continue the public hearing and wait to hear, do we have to set a date, Jennifer or Sabrina, even if it's in light pencil?
Yeah, we do have to set a date, and if there's not a submission by the deadline for that date, we'll just have to notice an adjournment, but there does have to be a date set tonight.
So what would be the submission deadline for the next meeting?
It can't be the next meeting.
Okay, what would be the next available submission date?
The next
Okay.
available one
For the
is,
March 21st meeting, the submission deadline is February 27th.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Yes, we'll shoot for that if you could put us over to
sure,
the
so
March
we'll do,
meeting.
is it March 21st then? Yeah,
Yes.
March 21st, so we'll schedule the continuation of the public hearing on March 21, March 21.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
members. Thank you.
Okay,
before
Thank
we
you very
go,
much.
Have a good one.
Bob,
Bye-bye.
Mr. Scioli.
Bye-bye.
is there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, okay. And I guess, it would be interesting to see a series of overhead shots of this property. You make them, they're made every day now. Just flying here, checking your property and see if it's for sale or whatever, but can we track it back reasonably in like 20 years or 30 years back to what was there to begin with?
There was quite a bit of improvements on the property. If you go on Westchester County's GIS municipal tax, you can go back to 1947. But as Mr. Teo stated before, there were many improvements on that site many years ago. My concern with stormwater is anything that was built after April 2007. That's when the rules and regulations came into being. So that's what I focus on with stormwater. Anything that was built after that date and time is now the time to bring it up to code. But there was many items there. You can go look for yourself and see how much was on that site. Well over 25, 30 years ago. I'm focusing on the driveway and the patio. Those two items were built after 2007, which should have required a permit at that time or a stormwater plan at that time.
Okay.
That's my focus.
There's also, Google Earth is great, because in Google Earth, there actually is a time bar Yeah, they go back to like around here, I think it's 85, 89. You can actually, on the time bar, you could slide the time bar and it will give you photographs.
Yeah, because if this was done before the rules went into effect, and then to me, there's gotta be a statute of limitations and somehow, and so I don't know that you can go back and take that off. But you can prevent
Fair enough.
fewer stuff, the newer stuff.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so that might help them too. You got
Yeah, they have some work to do. They can demonstrate it was built many, many, many years ago before the zoning, but they have to check with the building inspector to see when the zoning codes were changed, and it takes a lot of research. It depends how much due diligence they do for the next meeting.
Okay.
Good, thank you. So we will not hear the Panetti application for 2 Main Street, Kisco Park. The applicant has pulled that from the agenda. We'll see it next time around. So our next item is Nick, 60 Algonquin Drive, and this is an application for a site development plan approval for construction of a swimming pool.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the planning board. Robert Sherwood, landscape architect representing the client, Joseph Nix. My client purchased the property in the fall of 2022, so just 6-7 months ago. And he contacted me about trying to develop a swimming pool on the property. I do have some visuals on boards to demonstrate what's going on. There is, this is part of the 60 Algonquin. I could show first of all an aerial map of the property. As you come up Algonquin, it is on the right-hand side of the property, kind of at the base of that slope coming up. Roughly a 1.4 acre lot, obviously developed when he bought it with a driveway. The residence, a deck out the back and a small terrace in this area of the property. Kind of on this, what we would say is kind of the south west side of the property. Where we're looking to develop the swimming pool is adjacent, very close to, if not removing some of this existing terrace to build our pool. In the limits of the site, septic system is in the backyard here in this
Excuse me.
large.
You can see that, but I can't.
Right. So I was trying to make it convenient for,
That's good.
you
Thank
got
you.
it?
Yep.
So in the backyard, it is the septic system. And we are obviously, one of the comments in what we're doing as well, going to Westchester County Department of Health for the modification of that. And we have retained the services of Master Monaco Engineers, who were the original engineers that did the subdivision. So we're kind of trying to place the pool in the best area for the use and for environmental reasons. And a little bit larger scale blow up, as you can see, the existing driveway pulls around. There is some development here, there's an existing terrace, there is an existing wall that's in here. And what we're doing is putting the pool at the elevation of the terrace. And the swimming pool will have very minimal new terrace built, if any. And the pool will actually project out into the lawn. The pool wall will act as a retaining wall. So it'll be about a 4-foot high kind of drop to the lawn area that exists down here. I have some photos.
So that will be the actual wall of the pool?
Yes, yep. So in the top left corner of this proposal, you can kind of see this depiction is the existing terrace. There's an outside fireplace that exists. There is an existing wall that kind of wraps through here, which we'd obviously remove, and the swimming pool would kind of create its own wall. So really, it's shallow end, there is a spa in this part of the pool, but the deep end is only gonna be 6 feet deep. So there's really not even a lot of excavation that's gonna happen. This is kind of the shot looking towards the closest neighbor. And this is kind of looking back towards the house in here. Underneath this shot, it's kind of in the same angle. Here's this existing wall, the site development, the small fireplace, and that pool would kind of be out in here. This wall would go, some of this wall would be manipulated as well. This is a view from the existing terrace, kind of looking due west. And then I showed a little bit of this property line, and there is a drainage easement on the property. And this final photograph in here depicts and shows the drainage swale, which is a riprap swale. Clearly it was built when they did the subdivision. There's a drain pipe that dumps into this. It flows down and out of the back of the property.
And that's on the south side of the property, right?
Yes, which you could call the south side, that drainage runs down and through here and then out. For the aerial map, just showing kind of the location of the property, the different neighboring properties and where they have their pools kind of all in the same location. On the uphill side, we're going up, topography's kind of coming down this way. And I'm sure these were all built the same way because of the septic system constraints, et cetera. Backtracking a little bit, forgot to mention that the original subdivision plan, why we're really in front of you on the planning board side, two issues. One, the original plat, original subdivision said any pools, swimming pools, tennis courts, et cetera, would need planning board review and approval. And the other thing, as we kind of unfolded the layers of someone new buying a property and some items that were expanded, coverage calculations, development coverage, we are over on that, and we do have an application to zoning board. And in lieu, we've already talked, how do we bring that down in scale? That overage, we're allowed 10,600 square feet, we're at 11,700, so we're like 1,100 square feet over our limit. With the pool being in that, obviously, and the pool's roughly, with the pool and the pool coping, is about 800 square feet. So creatively, we're going to look at removing a lot of the driveway expansion that had occurred since the property was built. And I believe Mr. Cioli's memo brings that up, that historically there was some, call it development creep, unbeknownst to the client. And that kind of sums up what I was gonna present to you all tonight. Like I said, we are working with Westchester County
Are we currently over the coverage limit right now before the pool?
Yes.
You're over by that 1,100?
Not by 1,100, because that includes the pool.
Right, that
But
would
we're
be afterwards.
removing some of the terrace to put that pool in, so we're over probably 500-600 square feet. And the pool being 800 square feet, but we're removing some of that terrace, so there's a play on numbers there. But it's, I forget the exact
I
number.
think it was 1140, it'll end up being over.
Yes.
But you're over right now by,
A simple math, let's just say it's like 1,200 or 800 minus the 1,100, 300 square feet, but it's a little bit more than that.
great. Sabrina, do you wanna run through your memo?
Sure.
Now that we've looked at the numbers, checked your math?
The math is good, the math is good, and so this is a type 2 action, it's similar to the other application, so there's no further review in the State Environmental Quality Review Act. This application is completely zoning compliant with setbacks and, everything else, so there's no concern there. The aerial that the applicant is showing right now is fantastic, so we should probably submit that to become part of the record, which will take care of my next comment regarding the location of the surrounding houses, that's very helpful. And as the applicant indicated, this is, there's an overage of 1,140 square feet. So the development coverage limit was 10,653 square feet. So, as he indicated, there will look for ways to reduce it further, but that's kind of where we sit right now with needing a variance for the 1,140 square feet that is
Okay. Dennis, you had comments on this one?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. So under the site plan comments, I just, have my bullets, just really clarification that this, at this stage. And just curious about the spacing, presumably this is for screening, but, just wanted to see what that would be. And then it's funny that you mentioned, I agree, I think Westchester GIS is a great tool, and sometimes though, depending on what layers you turn on, I felt the need to sort of justify, not when it was listed on the plan, but the result of my own inspection, that indeed, that feature on the side of the property, I guess which would be to the south, I would concur that it's a swale. And I just wanted to, in this memo, sort of provide, both under, as defined in the town code, as well as the Clean Water Act, that indeed, would be not a regulated water course, not considered a water of the United States. So I just kind of went through that exercise just for record keeping purposes, and I have a feeling from some of the future applications you're gonna see that I've been privy to, a similar, description. Maybe I won't go into the level of detail, but at least to provide the baseline going forward as to how we sort of separate these things out in the field in terms of what's a resource that's regulated and what is just indeed a feature that carries water when it's available only during storm events or when someone leaves the hose on.
Okay, good. Very good, thank you. Bob, you had some comments?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Again, I used my most valuable tool, it seems of late, is the Westchester County Municipal Viewer, which is a GIS program. And again, as Robert said earlier, they did some improvements to the driveway. Evidently, it used to be all gravel when this subdivision came in many years ago.
Wasn't that many years ago?
Everything was gravel. Excuse me?
Yeah, please.
Watch, be careful, it wasn't that many years ago.
Yeah. Well, this was the whole formulation, this was the whole startup of all the garbage counts. And 115 and 110, as you recall, Robert. But anyway, let me digress here. They put in some areas that are now permeable pavers, which again has a different curve number than gravel, which is over 1,000 square feet, which needs chapter 108A. And also they put in a new flagstone patio, which is on the western part of the house, which has to be now picked up in stormwater, is that's increasing and creating more runoff and peak flows. So that's definitely over 1,000 square feet, so I would highly recommend they have someone look at that, submit something on that with it. Number two, I would definitely demarcate the areas of disturbance because not only will the pool area be disturbed, you have to show some access routes and also the access route and how you're going to maintain the protection of the existing septic laterals during the installation of the new 13 linear feet of laterals that Mr. Mastromonaco computed. Number two. Number three, just you might want to revise the area being disturbed. I believe what you put in there is just a pool that might be going up a little bit, I would imagine. And in this particular case, with the redesign of the total septic, which I see Mr. Mastromonaco used the latest and greatest codes that were just adopted by the county not too long ago, which superseded SD Bulletin 22. I would highly recommend that we wait till we get approval on the county on that, just to make certain that they do agree with Mr. Mastromonaco's logic on how he downsized the existing system from originally 940 down to 688. So I would recommend to the board that we know for a fact that is approved, because if it's not, you'd have to contend with about 230 feet of lateral as opposed to 13 feet. So that ends my comments tonight, Mr. Chairman.
So on that last point, then you would not be comfortable if we were so inclined to put out a resolution with a condition on it. You would want to make sure that we had that done first. Make sure that we had approval.
Yes, sir.
To jump in here as the applicant once again and to speak to Mr. Seoli, we are expecting comment letter back next week from Westchester County Department of Health. We have discussed it with them, and so hopefully by next week we'll have something, maybe even to resubmit to you guys.
Where's the pool equipment going to be located?
It's a good question. We were thinking about putting it on the downhill side. I have to show a pad for that downhill finish underneath.
There'll be a little bit more coverage than with a concrete pad?
Yeah, there'll be a little bit more. I was thinking we were gonna put it down in there. So I'll take that into consideration, show that.
Although we have the GIS that shows you the houses and the pools, if you could also show the locations on your map of the homes. Because one of the things that we look at is the pool equipment and how close it is and the sound, that kind of stuff.
Certainly, I'll take the plans.
Yeah. So if we could see the neighbors' improvements on their properties. There's no detail, just like a box where the house is.
Maybe one
Distance.
one property might be, not gonna get much in the way of information.
No. Okay, anyone, questions, comments?
I mean. It's like,
Chairman Kirkwood, can I just mention, I think I saw some photos and other things being displayed by the applicant that weren't in the packet. Just anything that wasn't in the packet should be submitted to the board for the record, so we know.
Yes, absolutely.
So, we'll, Jennifer, this has to go to public hearing?
It does, yes.
Are we there at this point, are we comfortable, or should we wait to get this information from the county on the Board of Health? Seems like that's kind of an important issue.
yes.
Okay, so I guess we'll continue then as an informal, so if you can get the other information into us, as soon as we can see that approval from the Board of Health, we'll be in good shape to move forward.
Okay,
But
so
if you wish to move it forward, you know, the comments that we've heard this evening and get the next submission and we can hear it in maybe March 21st.
if we submit by the 27th,
Yes,
right, if we.
is that fair enough? Is that-
Yeah, it's if we have a Westchester County Health Department approval by the 27th, could we then change that to a public hearing?
We might if we get enough time in advance to notice it.
Do you have enough time, Felicia, to get it on 27th to release it?
Okay, just
I
throwing it out there, so if we do get it,
Can we do
That
that,
would be
or do
great.
we have to notice a public hearing now? Do we have to schedule it?
We have to notice it, but the question is, Felicia, I didn't hear, do you have enough time?
I do.
So we can notice it for a public hearing if that information comes in.
Okay.
alright, we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, okay,
Alright, thank you guys so much.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the evening.
too late for that.
It's an official break time.
Fairly early.
Well, we still have 4 hours. so we-
You know what's funny, just off the record? I used to live on 15 Frog Rock and the house 10 across the street. I mean, that was just,
Wow, okay, nice to.
cause I know who bought the house before, they were the Z-Bar guys.
Yep.
And they just,
Yep.
that was across the street. I was talking about.
You too.
Well, hopefully
That's
you'll
what my
enjoy
wife
this
told me.
property more.
You know what my wife told me? That's why we're moving.
Yes.
The encroachment, why we don't want the encroachment? Second only to Putin in terms of encroachment.
Right. Yeah, this is the night for, overages.
Yes,
We gotta,
I guess, Carrie, we're just, if you could turn us off right now, we're waiting because Tom's out right now on a break, so we don't have a quorum.
So are we calling a brief recess?
Yes, yes,
Call brief recess, 5 minutes.
5 minutes, that's good, I can.
That's fine,
I can
yeah, that's
call
good.
in.
They're doing it.
Oh, yeah.
Look who's there, up at the top.
Oh, is that Steve?
Chuck.
Chuck, you should be. All set?
Hello.
Hello, Chuck. We're all set?
Evening, all set.
We're going to the next item, which is the Holmes 101 King Street application for a site development plan approval to convert an attic space to a studio apartment.
We good?
Yep, got it.
Alright, the focus of the work is this red square down here. I put in the square footage, which wasn't on your copies, it's online now. It's 433 square feet of a studio apartment. And, this is the whole thing headed, oops, I gotta share again. Stop share. Share again. And share. Wish we could flop back and forth. This is the Holmes and Kennedy, was the Holmes and Kennedy, now it's GLR real estate building on King Street. And right now there's an attic in this particular spot right here. And what we're doing is raising this roof up 4 feet and leaving the ridge exactly where it is, and just changing the slope and getting rid of this dormer. Somebody thought that was gonna, I think somebody, anyway. That, and then putting a studio apartment on top, and I'll show you what that looks like.
So it's on top of the office?
It's on top of the office, right, and I'm gonna share screen again, and I'll show you what it looks like in SketchUp. This is the office, and this is the massing model. This is the line of the existing roof that you saw in the picture. And this is I'm raising these up 4 feet and then just running the rafters back to the ridge. It ties in nicely with the existing, well, that's an existing E line and overhang, but I'm continuing that overhang all the way to the end and of course around the building. But in that new roof, I added, instead of a dormer, I added another roof, which is the basis of some of the space upstairs. This will be a living area on the back, there's a kitchen area, and in the area underneath the roof, the other 400 feet is a bathroom, closets, and loft bedroom. I haven't finished doing the whole study, I'll do that, I guess, for A or B, but this is what the front is now looking like. And I'll go back if I can.
What's the access? How does one get to the apartment?
Right here, you go in this door and up the steps.
Oh, I see, so you're putting some stairs in there, or were there existing?
No, there's no stairs there, I'm taking space out of the lower floor of the office and going straight up to the attic floor, which is now, and it's really, there's a code requirement. You see this line? That is a 5 foot height. That's how you measure the floor area, from 5 foot height to 5 foot height, not the outside walls, but you measure floor area from habitable space at 5 foot height. That 5 foot height then travels up to a flat ceiling at 7'6". That area has to be 50% of the 2 side slopes, which it is, and we end up with a legal habitable space. 5 foot high here, 4 foot high at the wall, and at the midpoint, we're 16 foot off. It's 16 feet off of the grade. However, there is an average grade for the rest of the building somewhere down here, and that's where the 22 foot. I think somebody asked about why is the height different? Well, I measured the new average grade for the whole building, and it ends up coming up from the midpoint down to average grade into the 22. Whatever the number was, you look at it. Somebody told me what the height was. I know I switched it.
It was 23 to 27, though.
Yeah, now it's 27 feet average height from midpoints all the way down to average grade.
So Chuck, I think that this visual is very helpful. It would be helpful if you submitted some type of visual like this to complete the application.
I sure will. I read your memo and then said I better do a visual.
It works.
Here we go. And I'm gonna need that for building department anyway, but I wasn't prepared for building department just yet.
It's okay. It's okay. But appreciate the.
There were some other questions. I'm gonna go back I'm gonna go back to stop share and share again. Somebody has to teach me how to do that. What I did do for you also is I started putting in areas. See up here in the corner, this is the existing building that we're building right now. And I have an area of this apartment this is a duplex, total 674 square feet. If anybody needs those numbers, here's the other one is 694 square feet. And in the basement, we'll have a third unit, which is 622 square feet. They all add up and it adds up to 1,900 feet of residential use. I don't know, I didn't put any of those numbers down, I just did the parking counts for the units. But now I can verify they're all less than 1,000 square feet. That's why you need the numbers. And over here, there's a number missing. This is supposed to be another 674. And when you add that all up, it comes up to the 1418, actually 1419 of building B, which is the two-story building back here.
Okay, Sabrina, did you have any questions? You wanna run through your memo?
Sure, Chuck did a great job explaining the height difference and kind of getting, I had asked for an explanation and elevations, and if he submits that, that will satisfy that. The putting the apartment above the office is consistent with the town code. The size thresholds are compliant with the town code, and it's a type 2 action under SECRA. I asked Chuck to put parking on the plans that are in the parking district, and he does show adequate parking spaces on the lot.
I don't think we're in the parking district, we're in business. No, we're in business retail, but what we are is taking advantage of a 15% joint use, shared parking, which I don't need in this particular case.
No, I think you are in the parking district, but the property is located in the parking district, however, you have your own parking lot.
I don't know, I think the parking district is back here somewhere.
Oh, no, you are correct, it is not in the parking district, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, but we are.
You have enough parking, so it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, you've got
We've got our own, we provided our own parking, and what's really interesting is when we look at it, there's 2 units in this building, one in the basement, which is now legal, and one in the attic, above the dentist. There is 3 in the basement, there is 1 in the attic, which is a total of 4. Somebody keep track of the numbers, there are 6. This is gonna be 6 more. In the future, we have a building permit application, not before you yet, but for 6 units here. And over here, there's, in this apartment, in D, there are 5 one-bedrooms and 1 studio, so there's 6 there, 6 here, 4 here and 2 there, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 units on this property with plenty of parking, and it's 18 units, and it's invisible, basically. Which I think is kind of like easy housing. Anyway, I'm done with that speech.
Okay, good.
Sorry, couldn't help myself.
So Sabrina, did you run through your comments?
I did, so basically, as long as he submits the calculations or the elevations and whatnot, I think that the application is complete.
Good.
So let me get clear, Sabrina, can I just give you some of this stuff? Like
Yes.
Something like that shows both sides? Okay.
Yeah, just give me what you showed tonight, it's fine.
All right.
You don't have to finish it.
Good, and then we can schedule a public hearing on this and be set. So is there, does that sound appropriate, to schedule a public hearing on this?
Sounds good to me.
And I don't think we have to, there's not much that you have to do, so do you wanna try for the March 21? Do we have enough room on it? March 21, Chuck, and you have to have your material in with those minor changes, February 27th?
February 27th.
Ready to go?
No problem.
Do we wanna ask staff to draw a resolution up
Sure.
at this point?
I think so.
In anticipation of approval? Is there a motion to do that?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we'll schedule for public and have a resolution drafted ready for you, Chuck.
Thank you.
All
Have a
right,
good night, Chuck.
great.
Good night. I'm gonna stick around and I'm gonna hang around and watch you guys.
Okay.
But I'll say good night.
Good night.
Nice shot.
We're gonna devote you to audience participation.
No, I'm not doing anything tonight.
Okay, we have two requests for extension. First is the Chappaqua Central School District, the application for a preliminary subdivision plat, steep slope permit, tree removal permit, stormwater pollution prevention plan, Button Hook Road and Sabina Road. So they're I don't know, make one step forward and six steps backwards with the DEP. And so Bob, you indicated that the list, the information that the DEP is requesting just seems to keep growing.
That is correct, Chairman, and also too, they're gonna have comments coming from Mr. Donald Lake of the Inspector General's office. So we'll be getting those soon. As soon as I get them, I will give them to Sabrina, and they can put them in the planning board file, and we'll send them to the applicant.
Okay. So no issues with regard to the extension? So is there a motion then to grant the extension that the applicant has requested?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we have the New York City EP Town of Newcastle. This is the well, I should read it. The new NCR 801 Portmel Road Channel Stabilization on New York City DEP property, 24 and 40 Portmel Road. Application for steep slopes permit, stormwater management, erosion and sedimentation control, tree permit approval. So we have an extension here. Apparently there have been some delays and the tree removal permit needs to be extended. Any issues with regard to this? This is I think a project that we all looked at as very, very favorable from the standpoint of the town. Right?
Fine, I mean,
Is there a motion then to grant the extension requested?
so moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, you wanna take the minutes first and then just go into the final discussion?
Yeah.
Why don't we do that? Sort of feel like we've really achieved a lot here by 8:30 or so. So why don't we take the minutes of January 3? Any material changes?
Yeah, I have one.
Okay,
Page 2 of 7, line 44. What I stated was that others say the building appears to be unsafe.
okay. That's important. Actually, I had a question for you, Tom, at the bottom of line 64 on page 3. Did you say not or not think was a good idea, or did you say it was a good idea?
Why would I say it would not be?
Yeah, I thought it's
Thank
not
you for
right?
the
Not
catch.
should be deleted, yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes I speak in double negatives, so I confuse myself even. So I apologize.
That's okay, it's the iambic penta.
Yeah,
Penta,
join
but
the
it's
crowd.
Any other?
Thank you for that, Bob.
Okay. If not, is there a motion to adopt the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
At least I have a couple of very minor little things,
Okay.
not material. Although the knot was on there, that was material. January 10 minutes. Anyone have any questions or issues on this?
The only thing is, nobody recognized my birthday, that's, anyway, other than that, no, I have no comments.
Aside
No
from that,
comments
aside from that slight, is there a motion to adopt the minutes as drawn?
So moved.
So move second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I didn't have any changes at all in that. And we have the minutes of January 17.
No comment.
Yeah, I don't have any on that, just outline some things from my own edification. Anyone else who's gone? Is there a motion to adopt then the minutes of January 17th as drawn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And finally, we have the minutes of January 24.
Well, we have a problem. I wasn't here.
So we cannot do January 24.
Well, like, there was some,
Well,
there's a way we had.
you can if you
Did I read it?
read it and watch it and participate at home, you know,
Yeah.
separately.
I must do it.
The home version of the planning board game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any comments that would make any sense at this point.
Jennifer, is it okay if we adopt the minutes, even though Dick wasn't here, but he's familiarized himself with the meeting and the material?
Yeah, if Dick has reviewed the meeting, and is familiar with the material, then he can vote on the minute. He wasn't in attendance.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, so is there a motion then to adopt the minutes of January 24?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, we're all set. So the next and last thing is the referral from the town board discussion. This is on the local law referral, NG 0 legislation to amend chapter 60 of the code of the town of Newcastle to establish a special use permit for mixed use residential buildings that meet certain green building standards at 50 North Greeley Avenue. So Tom, you and Eldad met with on this task force, and if you could give us an update in terms of where we are. We have, Jennifer sent around on February 13th an updated version of the proposed legislation, which I think we've all had a chance to look at, and what went on since then at your task force meeting.
Yeah, it was myself and Eldad from the planning board and Lisa Katz and Alex from the town board, in addition to town staff, Jennifer and Ed and Sabrina, and forgive me if I forget others, I think Jill was there. And so it was a pretty good session. We went through the this version, the one you just cited reference, which is the February 13th version, which you have in front of us tonight.
Yep.
In the context of our formal comments, our memo, the planning board's memo, to go through and see what should be done, could be done with making revisions and refinements to the draft text. And there were sort of areas of just minor adjustments that will probably appear to everybody, be clear to everybody when the next version comes out. You know, we'll check the 13th, this document we have with the new one that comes out for that. But I'd rather focus on what I think are sort of the bigger things that we talked about. And they come down to, in my memory, building height, street wall, and application process, procedures for application approval. And one of the things we talked about was the relationship between the zoning text process of turning that into legislation and the actual design site plan application, and how those two things would come together. And it's quite frankly, it's not clear to me yet exactly what that process will be. Maybe Jennifer or Sabrina can clarify that for us. initiative right now appears to be to advance the zoning text. And that's what we focused on in that meeting. There were some elements of it that I think that in our memo, the planning board's memo, we've been uncomfortable with, which was that we really sort of thought that this being a really fairly complicated site plan application in terms of its physical characteristics. Putting the policy subjects aside, just the physical characteristics of the proposal, that perhaps it would be best if the planning board, with our particular sort of experience and expertise to the extent that we have it, that perhaps we ought to be in the lead doing that. And the town board made it very clear that that wasn't gonna happen, that they were gonna hold the authority to do that. Their justifications were, I think that, as I remember, that it was a very important project and it was that this project was the manifestation of some very important town policies with respect to affordable housing and environmental objectives and the redevelopment of North Greeley. And they're obviously, I hope that I'm not misstating this, but they thought that that was of sufficient importance that it ought to be in their hands and they felt that they would have the ability to handle it in a way which would be appropriate to the task. So we left it there, and what we clarified was that as a special permit application, that the applicant and the process would follow the existing code for special permit, which is typically, it goes through zoning first, and then it comes by referral to the planning board, and we did that for Sunshine Homes, I think. We were in the process of doing that for the mosque, I believe, was another one. I don't know quite how Conifer worked, but in any case, that was the standard procedure. Now there is a provision in the code that there is a special consideration, I think, that if the underlying zoning says that the planning board would have jurisdiction, the planning board would take the lead in the site plan review. In any event, the town board made the case that the existing code allows them to, the town board has the authority to modify that procedure if they think it's in the best interest of the town. And so that's what applies in this particular case, that they would be taking the lead. It also says, however, that they assured me, and I'm sure certainly it's gonna work out this way, that they will be meeting with us and referring this to us in as a referral for site plan review, not as an authority that we would have, but as advisors to the process, throughout the process. And so I'm happy to take them at their word at that, and I hope that we can be, some service in that regard. I think that they look forward to it, and it seemed to me that it would be, everybody I think believes that would be the best way, is to get everybody involved who has some experience in doing this kind of thing. So we left it there on the process side. In terms of design, the design stipulations, there was a stipulation that had to do with street wall specifications about 50 feet this, 75 feet that, this far away from the street wall, which we thought were really too restrictive in terms of what the site plan review process might be able to do in modifying those things. And that it was too specific with regard to the actual proposal that's being given. In other words, the zoning text suggestion was that the zoning text was actually going to lock in the design proposal. And we'll see it, I think I had this right, everybody agreed that perhaps that level of specificity should come out of the zoning text in order for there to be greater flexibility in all of that. The third one, I think, is very interesting, has to do with height. There was some discussion about 60 feet, which was in the February 13th version of this, the one we have in front of us, the latest one that they've put out for us. 60 feet as a maximum and 4 stories. And there was a discussion about whether, how do we know 60 feet's the right number? And, you know, why 60 feet and where did that come from? And the conclusion was that not to decide that now in this version, and to instead of have 60 feet in here as an absolute height, the absolute height would not be defined yet, it would essentially be brackets with a dashed line in it to be determined. And to be determined through further discussion, to be determined through working out the details with the developer, to be determined through further analysis and decisions by the town board. And they asked us, they asked the planning board now to take on that study, to come up with a recommendation for what the absolute height ought to be in the zoning text. And so the to be determined is to be determined by recommendation to the town board from the planning board. Town board deciding upon our recommendation and advice what the town board thinks it ought to be. So we've been tasked to take this on and to decide what number ought to be, would be the most appropriate absolute height should be in the zoning text for this particular site.
Interesting. Good, it sounds like you did good work.
Well, we'll see, depends on if we can actually serve them in a way which is helpful.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, to me, I didn't see anything about really in parking, you know, it's off-street parking and loading. Yeah, sure, it should, that should be one of the concerns. Another one is, you know, that when I talked to the fire chief, he said he is not sure about, you know, 60 feet, in that there are wires in the way. And there's apparently not enough space in the back of the building, as this is speculative to a certain extent because I don't have any drawings in front of me. And so can't get the ladder around the back, and you can't put it in the front where it's close enough for the arching water to get on top, unless you want to go and put all the cabling underground. So that would be one thing that would enter into the discussion, you know, because it's significant.
Yeah, so at what point in the process, the town board or the planning department, whoever, you know, gets their preliminary review, would be something for them to probably consider.
Chew on that, yeah. And it's
I think it's interesting that I think the applicant had originally proposed underground wiring, and it was the planning board that said, gee, that would be onerous. But it may not be onerous in view of some of these comments. So we actually, in one of our memos, we took that out and said, gee, we think that would be onerous on the owner to put the wires on the ground. So, but maybe we shouldn't.
well, but it affects, okay, but if we take that route, then how do we prove that you can get the water on top of a 60-foot building?
Issue, yeah.
So it's not both things, and of course, you know, if you put the wires underground, you know, that allows the ladder truck to get up closer, but no parking would be allowed, you know, for the, you know, the length of the fire truck. So it's not guaranteed that that's what's gonna happen, but I don't really know how we get proof because we need an expert of some sort to help us on that one, because it will make something change.
So since we have been asked to do this, you know, maybe that's one of the things that we look into is approach fire department and ask them, you know, what do they think?
And the impact of our.
Yep.
If I may, I just want to remind the board that you have a draft memo that was prepared and a referral that is expected of your board by, I think, this Friday. And if you guys need more time for that, separate and apart from the analysis that you've been tasked with, we should ask for more time.
Well,
where is
I would tell, here's, you know, we sent out, it's older, it's the one from January 25. My thinking on, frankly, on the draft memo is, much of this is now.
Oh, our memo.
Yeah.
Oh, our memo.
Much of this is now moot, and I don't see much use in it.
Some of it is, some of it isn't, and you know, I've identified where there have been changes in your letter, if that's helpful, if you wanna go through that, or if you wanna wait, if you wanna circulate it.
I don't know what the other members' feelings are. My feeling is that what might be useful to the town board at this stage is if we had a site plan and if we were going to offer comments on a site plan that we don't have in front of us, these would be some of the issues that we would raise. No answers, no nothing, but just say these, that would be useful, might be useful to the town board. I don't know what this even means in terms of, we've been tasked with determining whether 60 feet's the right height. For what? That presumes, I guess, that it's gonna be 4 floors. Okay, well, you know, what's the minimum? So it's designed to be 4 floors, and then, you know, what are the issues? You know, if it's already ordained that it's gonna be 4 floors, then there's no point studying and seeing what the marginal benefit of the 4th floor is in terms and the cost of the marginal cost of that is, so that's out. So it's, I mean, I think we frankly should just send a list of bullets of things that the town board ought to be concerned with or might want to be concerned with. And leave it at that. But I personally went through the memo again and you know, it just doesn't seem to be relevant at this point. So
Well, what I would say is the memo stands.
yeah, it is what it is back then.
Well, but I mean, it's still our recommendations.
Well, it was our recommendations before the latest change, so they've changed it since, this was January 25 when we sent it out, so that's our memo.
What have they changed?
Well, they changed the entire process.
I don't think they did. All they did was that it's no longer obligatory.
Right.
From what I understand, it's no longer obligatory to refer it to us.
Well, I think no, it's more.
No, it is required, the referral is required, so if I could just interject for a second, on the process.
Yeah, it is
The
required.
process outlined in the proposed local law, in the version that was circulated to you last week on the 13th, and it was discussed at the working group meeting last week.
Right.
The process is the same that exists in the current code with respect to special use permit applications. And that is that the town board would be the approval authority for the special use permit and the associated site plan. And there is a required referral to the planning board for that application.
No, okay.
The only thing that's different is that there's an added step where the town board, and this is, you know, sort of surplusage language because the town board would have this authority anyway, but there's inserted in there a provision that says the town board can invite the planning board to sit with it at a meeting for the purposes of discussing your referral instead of just sending a memo to them, sit at the table with the town board, with the applicant, review the application and provide, you know, real-time comments on the application to the town board.
So Jennifer, I'm sorry, I understand that when I said that, yes, the underlying code still applies, which means that they have to submit it to the planning board for the referral to us. But and I think it's true, maybe I'm wrong about this, that for the things that the planning board normally cares about, we would have some authority in like drainage, for example. Or,
You would have advisory authority to the town board.
right, and
If there,
so I'm sorry. So
Yeah.
one of the questions would be, well, is our advisory authority limited to those things?
no,
It's
your
not.
advisory authority spans the entire application.
Okay, so I had understood that it had to come to us. But what had changed from the previous draft to the February 13th draft was the previous draft said that it was obligatory for them to meet with us in this joint session. The language says that they would do that, they must do that, and they changed, the language changed from that to it would be their option to do that. That's what I was referring to. And it's not, to me, it's not a big deal. I mean, they're gonna do what they're gonna do either way. So I don't think there's really a point to, I mean, I don't wanna try and force this on the town board because we wouldn't be successful trying to force it on the town board anyway. So, you know, they're gonna do, as I said, what they wanna do. I'm not saying there's anything that's terrible. But I'm just trying to face facts here about what we can do and what we can't do. And how we can help and how we're not being invited to help, is another way to say it. So, and I'm sure that they're gonna say, well, we are inviting you to help, and I take that in good faith that they are. I disagree about not being involved in the decision about how tall the building is, because there's a big difference between 60 feet and 45 feet.
Absolutely.
And that is there's a big difference. And I think that it would behoove us as a planning board to take that on, to try and understand that from our perspective, and then be able to present what our findings are to the town board and to the architectural review board, whoever else is involved, zoning board. Just put it out there, this is why, what we think and why. And there is an architectural treatment of this building, which has driven the height limit. It's actually not 60 feet's in here, but it was clarified by the applicant that the actual height is, the absolute height is like 55 feet, I think. And 60 feet, somebody just put 60 feet in here to give somebody a little bit extra room. But 55 feet is still, it's tall. And there's something about the architectural expression of this building that drives it there. It's not a matter of necessity, development necessity. It's a matter of, and I think what we ought to care about, first of all, is what is the development necessity here? And the town believes it's 4 stories in order to get the density they want down there. I think that they say that they'd like to be able to get some retail on the ground floor. They made that pretty clear. So given that as sort of the basic development envelope, what is the biggest concern, because one of the very big concerns that people have had through this whole process of form-based code and the reaction to that was, and Eldad said this very well, he said it was people were objecting to density, and density in that case was talking about the amount of development, right? But they were also, I think, talking about the heights of buildings and the feeling that things were too big, that they had lost the character of the town because the buildings were too tall. And in the proposal as drawn up in all the documents that showed us what this would be. So it seems to me that there is an obligation to respond to that concern. And we are being asked to help them respond to that concern by looking at this. I guess they felt that we had some experience in doing this, and I think that we probably do. And I'd like to promote this involvement if I can. The question for me is how, if we decide to do it, how do we go about it? What would we do in order to get that answer? I mean, there are a number of things we could do. The simple one's a balloon test. It might not be, that's not gonna be the definitive answer, but it seems to me there are a number of things we can do to get our arms around this thing and to use those devices to present to the town board.
Yeah, I think we have to be more specific than in this. Maybe it's a list of things. It's sort of like I have several coming. I gave you one already. Another one is that that you have a statement here that shouldn't have the charging stations. Certainly shouldn't have them inside. And who's gonna use them? Who's gonna be able to afford a car to use it in this thing? The people that are coming in here are either elderly or young or whatever, and they don't have the money, but cause right now, those kind of cars are expensive. And so why would you encourage that as opposed to leave room for it maybe in the future? But that's one that bothers me from the danger. And bicycles, you say no bicycles, don't deal with it. I think, but we don't want scooters that are run by lithium batteries, because now in the first 2 months in Manhattan, only one person has died from that, but 15 have been injured. There've been 15 fires in essence. So that makes me uncomfortable. And you put a light on it to say, why are we dealing with this in essence? And I think it's stronger than that, but that's what we should do. I mean, you got a whole basis here for things to work with, but I don't know, the time frame is not that.
Well, I think the issues on height specifically, I think some of the questions that you asked of the fire chiefs and, to weigh in is the first fundamental question that should be asked.
Yeah.
How do you react?
But to be clear, this is his
I understand.
opinion.
I understand, so it's
No
not final,
proof.
so but
No proof.
that's someone I think who should be, those folks should be talked to. And I think that would be something that I would recommend to the town board, that they listen to and find out if there's a problem. Now, I Tom's on tonight, and I guess the average height of this is not 60 feet, it's substantially less than that. And I don't, when it comes to the subjective height and that sort of thing, it's not my strong point. It is for you guys who do architecture, et cetera.
Yeah.
But what is my strong point is to know about safety. And if I hear something from a fire department, as we did with Chappaqua Crossing, that we can't go any higher than 3 stories, and we don't have the equipment, and then I hear Dick said, well, we have this issue of wires and access in the rear, these are concerns. Are they insurmountable? Probably not.
Oh, money will solve it.
Yeah, exactly, but it's something that I think is part of the equation in terms of height, on just that issue. I can't speak to what treatments look like, and I think that's very subjective. I think that's really more in the realm of the ARB. But issues that deal with the roof type, it's my understanding in talking with fire underwriters that there's concern with some solar roofs. There are concerns with these grass roofs, these green roofs, in terms of venting and access, et cetera. So these are concerns, and if it's not insurmountable, that's fine. But I think to blindly go ahead and just say, is it gonna be 50 feet or 60 feet without having the input of our emergency services folks is nuts.
Well, that's okay, but we can
Yeah.
get that.
Yep.
If they ask us to do, they have asked us to
Yeah,
do this.
so I think that's something that should be done.
You're exactly right, and you're exactly right. And so, that would be the entree, that it's a 3-phase thing. You can't win on all 3, but you can win on 2.
So I think you're right, Bob. I mean, it is subjective.
Yes, absolutely.
How high is up, right?
Exactly.
And the only way in my opinion, my experience, the only way to really be able to define it is to define it in the context of where it's going to go.
I agree. I just don't do it well. You do it well, you're trained in it. So I defer to you, the guys that really know this stuff. So I absolutely agree.
So and in order to demonstrate that context, right, you could do a balloon test, which is fine, which I think maybe is the right thing to do. I know we'll figure this out. Another thing you could do, and this is what we used to do. We don't do it anymore. I don't know. I'm not practicing architecture anymore, but I suspect they're not doing it anymore because they never see it. We never see it here. Is to build a model a physical model.
Mhm.
They, right now, they don't do that anymore because you have all these, technology doing these, SketchUp.
Yep,
you
yep,
know.
3Ds, yeah.
It's a great tool, we saw it a couple times tonight.
Yep.
It's a great tool, but it doesn't get you into the actual three-dimensional environment that the proposal is. There's something, and you might know this as sort of your engineering background, there's a basic principle, is that drawings lie. They don't lie on purpose, but they don't tell the truth because they can only represent so much. And even these computer drawings, three-dimensional computer drawings, don't tell you don't tell you the actual truth because they are a two-dimensional representation of a three-dimensional thing. And so I wonder if perhaps we ought to be asking the applicant, or have the town board require the applicant, based on our recommendation, to actually build a physical model, figure out, how big it ought to be. But it ought to be in the context of the street. We used to do these things all the time. What are the size of the houses across the street? What's the scale of the buildings going down to the corner? Susan Lawrence and the other buildings that are there. Putting it in that context, I think, will make it more evident what the proposal is, and I think give us a better tool to really understand what feels good within the context of what 4 stories really requires.
I think actually, Tom, have you done some of that work? Were you tasked with doing some of that work in terms of the other roof heights on North Greeley? And maybe just to
Good
give us
evening,
some
Mr.
sort of
Chairman.
context, a little bit anyway?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman, member of the board. Let's take a walk down memory lane. We had Conifer. They have a maximum ridge height of 51 feet with an average roof height of 46 feet, 10 inches. We have 91 Bedford with a average building height of 34 feet, 0.8 in height. Their maximum ridge height is 40 feet. And then we have one South Greeley, which has an average of about 32 feet in height. And then they're in their respective zones, 91 Bedford in the BR zone, Conifer in the industrial zone.
That's excellent data. That's really good work, thank you, that's helpful. Because
You're
with that,
welcome.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Tom.
In regards to the fire access, we've had some discussions with the fire chief as well, the building department and the fire marshal. The town currently has a 60-foot ladder truck. That's maximum reach, but the angle of inclination is not going to let it get that far of a reach or that high. That's just the length of the ladder. We will be relying on mutual aid from Mount Kisco with a longer ladder truck. I believe theirs is 100 foot.
Yes,
to
theirs is 100
successfully-
and ours is 70, just for the numbers.
70. Okay, thank you. So we are already at a loss being the first responder in town. The wires are a game changer. They will prohibit any access through the front. The building being at the property line against the MTA would probably require a deluge system similar to Conifer to douse the whole back of the building with water at the time of a problem. And there's very limited access to the south and north to access this building. So it's going to be something the fire department and the chiefs do want to speak on. There is a parking garage underneath that they're very concerned with a one entrance in and out. That if an EV car goes up, they may not be able to deal with this to put copious amounts of water on. So there's a lot of obstacles that it behooves the town to, like you said, have the fire chief's comment.
Let me just ask this question. I'm not so sure it would help, but and maybe this is something we should ask the fire chiefs. Does it make a significant difference with all those issues and constraints and problems if it's a 3-story building versus a 4-story building. And of course, I'm using stories, which again, I shouldn't be saying, I should be saying height. So as opposed to 60 feet or 55 feet, if it's a 45-foot building, does that remedy some of these issues? And I don't know if you know, Tom, but I think that's the kind of questioning I think we should be asking our emergency services folks.
Yes, sir, I do agree, and if we look at Conifer, which has a similar height, they're at 46 feet 10 inches to their average roof height. They have 3 sides available for firefighting. The Sawmill Parkway, Greeley, and down Hunts Plate. It's still limited, and it's a type of structure that's rated to withstand fire to the best of its nature. It's got a very good fire rating. So we're going to be relying heavily on the fire capabilities of the building and less on the ability of the firefighters to get access to the building, to get our residents out of there, in my opinion.
Right. And we've heard about, we had a presentation, I believe, from the applicant in terms of the fire rating. But one of the things that struck me was in the way that this construction would take place, I was concerned with the issue of how smoke travels and upwards in one of these kinds of buildings. It seems to be almost that you are creating flues, chimneys, if you will, chimney effects. And so it may not burn, but the smoke may be a real issue as well.
You had said earlier the problem of venting a green roof, that is a real problem because you'd have to shovel away before you could cut through. And if the roof structure is a cross-laminated timber structure like the building is made of, you're looking at 5 inches of solid wood at a minimum to get through. So it's going to delay venting. There are methods of allowing mechanical venting and dampers to open doors that may need to be incorporated into the design to do this. The elevator shafts could become areas of refuge to egress, people down to a safe public way. But that has to be addressed. We've yet to see a design.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Tom.
You're very welcome.
Yep, really good information, thank you.
I mean, there are for example, the kinds of things, the bullet pointed memo that I think is an excellent idea.
Yep.
One of them that I'm concerned about is, I mean, green roofs are great, right? But green roofs need to be taken care of. And the developer made a statement when he was here that this building's gonna last for 150 years. Well, that's a bit of hyperbole because this is actually new building technology. We don't know how long these things are gonna last.
Despite the warranty.
Yeah, despite the warranty. But that's definitely true of a green roof. Is somebody gonna maintain a green roof for 150 years? There's no guarantee of that. And so the consequence of that would be, what kind of roof do you get in replacement? Is it like a asphalt shingle roof? Do we want to see an asphalt shingle roof on that building or would it be a standing seam metal roof? There needs to be a better, I think, understanding of the long-term consequences of some of these things before somebody says, well, it's gonna be a green roof and you're gonna see it's gonna be beautiful. I mean, that's taking an awful lot on faith, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just one of the things that I think could go into this memo. That I'm sure we all have a few.
Yeah.
I think, I personally, think because of the changes that have gone on, I'm sure there are nuggets in here that are still relevant. One of which I think we should change, which is the underground wiring, based on some of the information we may have. But it seems to me that that would be more useful to the town board at this point. They have this memo, they've seen this memo. Yeah. We talked about it, and I think we've gone past that, frankly.
Yep, me too.
So I think this is old terrain that we've tilled, and I think we should move on based on the assignments that we have and what we would suggest to the town board that might be issues and questions that they could consider.
I agree, and so what maybe, and we need to get LDAT involved in this, obviously.
Yes. And Kanan, sure.
Excuse me. What I'd like to do is put together what I think might be the right way to get at this height issue, the kinds of things we could look at. Tom's data is excellent starting point for that, because you can go look at that building in town and know that that's 51 feet.
Yep.
You get a sense of
Context.
real
That
context.
should be a change that's put in the document in the end.
In the end, right. That's the objective, is to get a height limit in legislation, which is the right one. Because all the zoning has stories and height in every case, so that's what we need to do.
And one of the other things that kind of worries me is that, okay, if you have a 51-foot height building, well, let me see now, that's 12 times that, that's at least 4 stories in a conventional building. And so we have to, think about, well, is that okay? How do we really control this? I'm not a lawyer, as to, well, okay, if you say this is gonna happen, it's gonna happen. My sense is that with zoning, the town has a lot of prerogatives to do in the future. They could change it and, say, hey, we want a wall of these things, type of thing. Yeah.
Well, Sabrina, to answer one of your questions, do we need extra time? I guess we do, just to put together whatever it is that we wanna put together to get to the town board. Again, I don't think we should take a whole lot of time on this. I would like to get it to them sooner than later. I don't wanna be the reason for any undue delays. But it seems to me that what we should really do is, the 5 of us put together our thoughts and get some bullets out to the town board and say, these are issues that, as you move forward on the legislation, be cognizant of these. Now, it's the town board's prerogative, and I have no problem with even the change in what I perceive was a change in process and change from what LDAD was arguing for example. That's fine, but whatever the process is, and the town board will handle all aspects of it. That's fine. But here are the things that we've done in the past, and these might be helpful to you. And I truly think that's the best thing that we can do to really help the town board as they navigate this legislation and then the application. Now, it's a little difficult to do all the bullets because we haven't seen a site plan. So there's plans online, so we can, I guess, look at that, but we have, I guess, some.
Well, that was gonna be the next thing. I mean, it seems to me if we're gonna come up with a planning board recommendation for how tall this building ought to be, I don't think that we ought to be just picking things out of the air.
I agree, especially me. I mean, maybe you can, but I can't, I'll tell you that.
I mean, in fairness, one thing you could do would just say, well, okay, 45 feet, done. But that's not give me the problem really the kind of attention that it really requires.
Right.
And in order to give it the attention it requires, I think that we're not gonna come up with an answer, next week.
Mhm.
It's gonna take some time and some work and some patience on the town board's part, I think. They are gonna have to go through, I'm not a process person here with regard to legislation, but it seems to me they're gonna have to go through public hearings, I think they're gonna go through public hearings on the zoning legislation. I'm not sure they actually have to. But they're gonna hear from the public on this, and there's going to be some rounds of, I guess, review and revision. No matter whether we're involved or not, they're probably gonna be going through that, which gives us time, I think, to backfill this one important question. And if we.
Can I just-
Yes, please.
When you're done, Tom, I just wanna.
No, I was just gonna say that if we could just quickly come up with what we think the right tools are and process and some sort of a schedule to get at this thing as quickly as possible, that maybe there's some oxygen in the process already the town board's gonna have to go through for us to be able to contribute. That's all I was gonna say.
Yeah, so the town board absolutely is required to hold a public hearing on the legislation. In order for the town board to do that, though, I believe they will need to fill in that gap. So they can't advertise for the public hearing with a piece of legislation that doesn't have a height proposed. So that piece of information will need to get to the town board before they can schedule their public hearing. The other thing I just want to remind the board is that there is a secret process involved for the legislation as well. So whatever figure the planning board recommends to the town board for the height, if that's going to be plugged right into the legislation, that's going to undergo a secret review. So there'll be a number of studies that'll have to be done, through the applicant and the town board to make sure that at that height, at a conceptual, on a conceptual basis, it's not going to cause any significant adverse
So
environmental
in that, that's helpful. So two things. First of all, got it with respect to the official sort of public hearing on the zoning text. But they can they not hold informal meetings on a draft zoning text? Informal public meetings and put it before the public that way?
They can, that would be up to the town board. It certainly would not be the usual process.
Right.
But they could do that.
Okay, yeah, I imagine it's not the usual process, but this is a pretty unusual proposal with respect to its impacts and so on. The other thing is that through the SECRA review, whatever is in the zoning text gets analyzed that way, and the outcome of that, mitigation outcome of that might be, well, it's too tall, we need to revise the height. That would be another way to get at a planning board's review of the height without slowing up the process, you think?
Yeah, I think that could work, yeah.
Okay, I just want to clarify one thing. In a way, it almost sounded like that we shouldn't talk with the fire chief. Is that a problem?
Well, that will be part of the formal SECRA process. So emergency services will have to be consulted as part of that SECRA process for the legislation. So there will be formal comment solicited, and hopefully a formal comment submitted to the town board from emergency services, including the fire chief.
So the emergency, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Tom.
So that's where this sort of process gets a little bit crazy to me, because if the fire department is looking at only the zoning text, they have nothing to look at, right? They need a design to look at in order to assess, like Tom DePaul needs a design to look at in order to assess, whether it meets the expectations requirements of the town. So that review, that doesn't come. Does that come in the SECRA process? Are drawings submitted? Is the site plan submitted as part of the SECRA review? Because the SECRA review is for the zoning text only, isn't it? How does this work?
It is, but you have somewhat of a specific proposal. And this is where it gets a little confusing, right? Why the initial recommendation last year to the applicant was to proceed simultaneously with the zoning text and an application for a special use permit, because when you do one before the other, sometimes the process does get a little bit confusing, admittedly.
Because people get involved.
So we're just looking at the legislation now, but we do know that the legislation is targeted for a particular development, right? And we have at least preliminary plans for that development. It's not a site plan, but we have some, architectural renderings and whatnot for that development. So we would be able to use those as a conceptual, at a conceptual level to study the height.
Okay, great.
That's not to say that those plans are exactly what would ultimately be approved if anything's approved, right? Because it has to go through the process.
Right.
And there likely will be changes to those plans as the application itself goes through the process.
So in that case, I think that this board needs to get whatever drawings are available, have been submitted to the town, site plan, architecture, whatever's available that the applicant has done, we need to get those so that I think we should have those so that we can really understand what we're looking at, what we're being asked to look at with respect to height. We don't have anything.
Yeah, they're all posted online. So everything that's been submitted to the town board is all posted online under the NG 50, I forget what it's called,
So the
50
town,
North Greeley,
so the town,
tab on the website.
okay, so the town has it, obviously.
Yes.
So the town ought to give it to the planning board. I mean, why should I have to go online and take these, and, you know, go to Kinko's and get drawings printed out? If this is a formal thing we're being asked to do, I think that we should get a set of drawings. We each ought to have a set of drawings to look at this thing. Otherwise, you know, it just seems like we don't have the material that to say the material's available doesn't get us there. I think it needs to be given to us.
And you're talking about in hard copy?
Yeah, please. It'd be great. I mean, it can't be a big deal. I don't think that there are that many
Yeah,
drawings.
I'd like to see them too. I mean, it's, if the height is 51, why is this number 60?
It's not 51. 51 I thought 51 was.
It's conifer.
Conifer, oh, okay.
This one is 55, I think.
55, all
Average
right.
height, I think, anyway.
Okay, we still need to
to
see
see
it
it.
because what else are they gonna put up there? If they don't put up a rain garden, you know, they're gonna put up, you know, solar panels. You know, somehow we let one in downtown get by, you know, when that's the ugliest roof I've seen in the whole town. You know, but you know, I wanna know I wanna see what other things are planned for it, just not the raw building.
Well, I think not just for the sake of height, but I think also for what Bob is suggesting, here are the bullet point things that we think you guys ought to be looking at. And we don't, I mean, I can intuit what some of those might be, but not really informed by actually looking at a set of drawings.
Right. I agree. So I think it would be very useful. I think you raised the point when if you gave this to the fire department without plans, what are you looking at? And they probably look at you with the four heads. They have to see what is it. So and again, marking it up, looking at it, writing on it. I don't know what's involved. How many sheets are there? Any idea what the schematics might be?
I'd guess. Oh, look.
Todd
What is it?
has them, he'll tell you what they are.
I'm counting.
Maybe 10, I'm guessing.
There's an architectural set and then there's some preliminary engineering site plan.
I've got 5 pages with me here that shows the elevations and some floor plans, site
okay.
plans.
Great. I mean, that's not that much of a burden then. If we can get those, that would be great. Could be very
You just
helpful.
want those plans?
Pardon? Everyone's breaking up. Something's happening to our audio. Everyone's very scratchy up there.
The information we have has engineering plans and architectural plans.
Okay.
They're concept plans. If we need to make a request of the applicant to provide additional hard copy plans because we did not get enough for the planning board because everything has been distributed digitally. So if you want just the architectural plans, that's different than asking for the entire package of plans.
What more is in the package? Would it be, is it relevant to us?
A site plan? Where's the
It's
site
not,
plan?
I don't think they've done one yet.
It's very vague, Sabrina. I looked
it's
at
concept,
something
yeah, not a lot of detail.
very conceptual. I mean, it's a site plan nonetheless, but there's not a heck of a lot of information on it.
I don't know that would be bringing you much value. I think that the architecturals would probably be better.
Well, wait a minute. When you say a site plan wouldn't be of much value, what I'm thinking about as a site plan that would be useful would be essentially the ground floor plan of the project. I'm not talking about the elevation.
That's in the architecturals.
Okay, that's what I thought, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I wanted to see the layout of the building.
Yeah, that's there.
Yeah, so,
Okay. That's
it can be subject to change, but I heard from somebody that that's very narrow behind the building. There's hardly any space.
So, yeah, I guess you have to ask the applicant. I would be helpful if you gave them a quick turnaround time, because everybody's under the gun here. I guess I don't understand if it's only like 5 sheets and there are 5 of us, it's 25 sheets. You guys, the planning for the development department, in the interest of doing town business, can't just print them and give them to us. I don't understand these protocols, it don't make sense to me. I mean, but you do what you have to do, but I really think it ought to come as quickly as possible, because we've been asked to do this.
Yep.
Yep.
I mean, 5 sheets, times 5 is like nothing.
Yeah. Yep, okay. So if we could do that, I think it would be very helpful. I think it's important. I think some of us have asked for it before, but I think it would just, again, I just think we understand we don't have a formal site plan, but there are some essential fundamental basics that we have to have in front of us, I think, to make any kind of reasoned, to give any reasoned help to the town board.
Yeah, we should have had it commensurate with the text.
From day one.
I think so, yeah.
So can we make a commitment to each other to move on this? Like I'm happy to sit down and try and figure out with LDAP, we'll do this together. What the right sort of process would be and materials to get at the height limit thing, and have something for next week, or our next meeting.
Sure.
Next meeting, yeah.
Next meeting, sure.
What about our bullet point thing?
We can, I think, once we get these drawings, I think all of us can put together the bullets very quickly.
Great.
And, you know, I don't know, 10, 15 bullets at most each,
Yeah, I don't, you know,
if that.
I would use an old
And I'm
army,
sure there's gonna be tremendous overlap.
old army technique. Anything you want to be read, leave it on the first page, don't bother with the second and third.
Right, I know. Okay. So anyway, when do we think we can get can we pick those up at town hall, the extra copies?
Yeah.
You know, as a packet, that we can just pick up in the next couple of days?
Hello?
Sabrina?
I'll leave it to you guys, I mean, just let us know. Just send us an
Sorry.
email.
I'll have to see, one, if we can print them ourselves, or how quickly we can get them from the applicant.
Okay, great. So if
I
you get
mean,
those by the end of the week, yeah.
I will put it as the priority for me to figure this out and get them for you.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
We're probably at about the end of where we can actually understand any of what you guys are saying.
Yeah, well, you guys
It's
are
become so distorted, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's like learning a new language.
Yeah, you're great. It's like we're losing
You
the
gotta see how the
audio.
lips move, that
Yeah.
helps. Yeah.
All right, is there a motion then to close the meeting?
Please.
Second.
Okay, please we'll do it. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for your help.
Big
You're
help.
very welcome.
Yep, thanks.
Take care.